About 50 years ago, an astronaut returning from the moon experienced things that he couldn't find a scientific explanation for. So, with some colleagues, he launched a new science focused on the mind and how it works in the body and across space and time. It's the field of Noetics, where the tools of modern science are used to help us understand how what we think and feel affects us and the world around us. Now, this is Dr. Ruth Miller's Noetic Moments from the studios of KXCR Community Radio in Florence, Oregon.
This is Noetic Moments, where we explore the field of research that discovers what consciousness is, what it does, how it works, and how our lives could be very different if we understood it better. And I am Ruth Miller, a longtime student of consciousness, cybernetics, and anthropology, and through this series of programs I'm introducing some of the people whose work has defined this field of research, and I'm explaining some of their ideas and experiments. I'll also explore some relevant news items and answer questions that you send to my email address, ruth@noeticmoments.org. Now, over the course of these programs, we've looked at some of the models developed to explain our mental and emotional experience, and we've looked at the experiments that have supported those models. We learned that, although the medical world defines consciousness as what we are aware of now, most of what goes on in the mind is not in our conscious awareness at all, but goes on in unconscious processes. From Jung and Freud and other early researchers, we learned that our minds can be thought of as having three aspects: what we are aware of, our personal awareness, and usually called the conscious mind. Then there's what we aren't aware of that keeps our bodies going and includes our fears and our beliefs about threats and dangers, which we're calling our individual subconscious mind. And then what we aren't aware of that connects us with all beings and guides us in our actions, the superconscious mind. We then learned that we can change our state of consciousness, our state of awareness, and shift to what aspects of minds we are aware of, and in the process, what we're capable of. From neuroscientists, we learned that the brain modifies whatever it receives from both the senses and the mind to fit past patterns of experience, following Begg's principle that, quote, neurons that fire together wire together. And those neurons form what's called the default structure or default network in the brain, which becomes our normal experience. In fact, we see and hear and feel what we expect or believe we will experience. We also learned that while it's possible to say where in the brain various processes are active, no one has yet been able to pinpoint where memories are stored or how ideas and thoughts are formed. We then saw that many responses in our body happen faster than nerve impulses or chemicals can travel through the body, and they often show up even in the body before we are aware of it. As a result, many scientists have come to accept that what we call mind is not the electrochemical activity of the brain, but is, in fact, the activity of a field that surrounds and permeates the whole body. The brain, then, is best understood as a receiver-transmitter, receiving messages from the mind and transmitting them to the body, and receiving messages from the senses and transmitting them to both the body and the mind. Some experiments have demonstrated that a mind continues to perceive and process for as much as several hours, even when a person's brain and heart are flatlined and they've been declared dead. This lack of brain activity, no default structure working, may explain why most reports from those who've been through such what are called near-death experiences have a difficult time describing them. The experience doesn't fit the patterns of expectation stored in the brain's neuronal network. Mind, then, is a field, a pattern of energy that exists regardless of whether the body is functioning. It permeates and develops with the body and the brain, and it is told by the senses through the brain what the body's experiences of the world out there is like. This field that we call mind appears to be at least partly electromagnetic because it's possible to measure electromagnetic activity for several inches and, in some cases, several feet around the body. And some researchers and teachers of ancient traditions, who anthropologists call shamans, say it looks like a glowing egg shape. The field extends from below our knees to a few inches above our heads. Now, every field is a unique pattern of vibrations that's different from other fields, and some experiments have demonstrated that minds can vibrate along similar patterns. They resonate with each other. Such resonant minds are able to sense directly when the other that they resonate with is focusing attention on them or about to come home. The people's body and some of the pets' bodies have been measured as changing when someone they're connected with turns attention their way, as if, for example, they're about to come home, even though they can't be seen or heard. These experiments help explain how the belief of a care provider in a treatment can help the patient receiving that treatment experience healing. It also helps explain what's called the placebo effect. And we've learned that mind affects energy and matter in a variety of other ways as well. For example, in the famous double-slit experiments of quantum physics, the subatomic building blocks of the universe show up as either energy or matter, depending on whether a mind is present to observe them. For decades now, individual computer operators have changed the patterns of numbers in what should be random grids on their computer screens or printouts. And the collective human mind changes the readouts from random number generators on the network of computers run by the Global Consciousness Project. Because of the nature of fields and because of things like the Global Consciousness Project, a growing number of scientists are seeing our individual field of mind as part of a larger field, what Jung called a collective consciousness, Teilhard de Chardin called a noosphere, and others call a global brain. And more scientists are saying that that field of mind extends beyond Earth. They're equating it with the quantum or zero-point field out of which all matter and energy arises, some calling it the Akashic field, using a Sanskrit term that means, quote, the essence of everything that exists in the material world. We also heard from a neurologist and a physicist who are using the equations that describe aspects of quantum mechanics, relativity, and computer learning algorithms to describe the role of consciousness in the formation of our material world. With these understandings, we explored some more popular ideas of how the mind might work, including the law of attraction, how the world around us mirrors what our consciousness has been focusing on. Accessing information in that quantum or Akashic field through insight, intuition, and channeling. How dreams affect the body and consciousness, and how music affects the brain and body and our connections with other fields of mind. These past few weeks, we've been looking at the role of mind and our state of consciousness in the healing process and the ways that we can enhance or slow down healing through our thoughts, emotions, and images. You can catch up on our past shows on our website, www.noeticmoments.org, Noetic, where you'll also find links to the clips and books and authors that I mention on the show. Well, so far, we've been talking mostly about our individual consciousness, how the brain and mind interact to produce a healthy or not so healthy body. A powerful example of this interaction has been recently reported by the Mind Valley Institute. I'll let them tell the story.
And this car went past a pedestrianised area and it hit me in the back. And I felt it hit me, but it didn't really hurt. It was like a punch. But then it hit me again. so hard that I fell and my legs went under the car.
And the wheel went over your leg.
Over my back leg. And
fracturing your leg in 14
places. Yeah.
Wow.
Doctors gave Marissa 6 months to recover, but more so, the doctors also warned her that she might have a limp for life, one leg might be shorter than the other, she might develop early arthritis in her leg, and that she would never, ever, ever be able to wear heels again. But 6 weeks later, Marissa was walking again. So what is Marissa's technique? Well, Marissa believes that you can talk to your body, you can command your body to heal. Your body is highly receptive to commands, particularly when you're at a light, relaxed, or meditative level. Now, we know this is true, but what people sometimes underestimate is how powerfully effective this approach is. Marissa calls her approach the Dick technique, because she's got this crazy sense of humor. DICC. And it's called the Dick technique because you are going to use the following commandments to command your body to heal. Now, I'm going to have Marissa explain it, and then we're going to go deeper.
You direct, instruct, command, compel, and code your body to heal itself based on the fact that the body knows. If you cut your arm, it knows exactly how to heal itself. But we sometimes get in the way of our own healing because we hear words like, oh, that's the worst fracture in the whole of London. Oh, that's never going to heal properly. And that gets right in the way of your healing, and you have to override what someone else says and must never let anyone else have agency over your healing, and command your body to do what it knows how to do, which is to heal. The body knows how to heal, and so you've got to command, compel, code, instruct in a very forced way your body to heal itself perfectly.
So, for example, you were teaching me how to reverse eyesight, how reverse astigmatism. You were saying I should say statements such as, I now direct, instruct, command, and compel both my eyes to heal so I can see perfectly and clearly.
And you can also say, I command my eyes to go back to their original coding and to work properly and perfectly, exactly as nature intended them to. So I can say, I command my foot to heal itself perfectly, so I can move properly, exactly.
And when do you make these statements?
Well, the good time is when you're in the shower, because if you always do it at a time when you're doing something, you never forget. So when you're in the shower, when you're putting on the kettle, when you're putting on your clothes, before you go to sleep, when you wake up in the morning, you need to do it at least 10 or 15 times a day. Even better if you go into hypnotic or a meditative state and use it then, because you're in that different brainwave then.
So you can state this in your meditation.
Yeah. Now, Marissa Peer is a hypnotherapist who teaches people how to help others heal and to heal themselves by accessing the subconscious mind, that mind that is associated with the body and its healing processes. Clearly, she's applied it to her own body. She's up and walking about 6 weeks after a 14-fractured leg, and surgeons telling her she will not be able to do so for several months. So the question becomes, what is hypnosis and how does it work? And I'll let one of the experts in the world, Dr. Andrew Huberman, explain how that works.
So hypnosis is a state of calm and high focus. So context is restricted. It's like looking at something through a telephoto lens. You're eliminating the surround. So it's a state of high focus, which normally, as we talked about earlier with the aperture, the visual system, would be associated with a high degree of excitement or stress. But hypnosis is a unique state because you have a high degree of focus, but you're very relaxed. And just to remind people that neuroplasticity is triggered by states of high focus, followed by periods of relaxation later in deep sleep or in non-sleep deep rest. In hypnosis, it brings both those states together at the same time. And this is one of the reasons it's effective in accelerating neuroplasticity. There's actually a test, a clinical test called the Spiegel eye roll test. Spiegel's father was a hypnotist and a psychiatrist. So I want to be clear, these are not stage hypnotists. These are board certified MDs and PhDs who there's a lot of scientific research to support what we're about to talk about. So typically when we get sleepy, when we're relaxed, our eyelids close and our eyes go down and the chin goes down. The induction to hypnosis involves doing the opposite, looking up, which actually, believe it or not, creates a state of alertness, and then having you close your eyes. So it creates a kind of conflict in the cranial nerves that innervate the eye and eyelid muscles. Again, the eyes and your state of mind are so intricately wired back there in the brainstem. So if you could look up toward the ceiling, Tim, with your eyes open, and then just while still maintaining upward gaze, if you could just slowly close your eyelids. Oh boy, you're really hypnotizable.
So what did you see? That was deeply uncomfortable.
Yeah, I know. It's a little bit odd. So for those of you listening or watching, you sort of look up towards what, sometimes in yoga communities or meditation communities, they call the third eye center. We don't actually have a third eye, but if we did, it would probably be, someone decided it would be between our two eyes and our forehead. So by looking up, you're inducing alertness. And then you're creating this conflict where I asked you to close your eyelids, which is what you do when you're in a state of sleepiness. And what both Spiegel Senior and Spiegel Junior have figured out is that it's a very good predictor of how hypnotizable people are. You can look up the Spiegel eye roll test. And what I was looking for is, let's say if somebody is not very hypnotizable, what will happen is as they close their eyes, they'll have a hard time closing them slowly. They'll just kind of snap shut and their eyes will roll forward. In other words, I'll see their pupils again. What happened when I saw you do this is that your eyelids were closing very slowly and I saw the whites of your eyes were starting to roll back into your head. So you would have a score of probably about a 4, which is very hypnotizable. I'm about a 4. Some people you'll just notice, you say, look up and then slowly close your eyes and their eyes will just kind of snap shut and their eyes will roll forward right before it snaps shut. So you can do this experiment of sorts on people that you know, and it predicts pretty well how quickly or easily you will go into hypnosis. I should mention that no one will go into hypnosis if they don't want to. But if you're interested in exploring hypnosis with the Reverie app or with a clinical hypnotist, so for smoking cessation, if people do the practice, about a 60 to 80% success rate, depending on the study you look at. These were all blinded controlled studies. In terms of anxiety relief, those are tremendously strong effects. As many as 90% of people are going to feel significant improvement in anxiety. For pain management, for chronic pain, there's a high degree of success. So, people will vary depending on how hypnotizable they are and how regular they are about the practice. But anywhere from a 50 to 75% of people will experience a significant reduction in chronic pain. And if they are using pain meds, they tend to be able to take lower dosage of pain medications in order to manage that pain. So it's quite powerful. Now, for trauma and things of that sort, it needs to be done with a clinical, I would hope, board-certified MD clinical hypnotist. And there, the success rates are quite high as well.
So that's kind of what's involved in hypnosis. Using the model we've been discovering on this show, we can say that in the process of hypnosis, the normal default structure is shut down temporarily, and the mind can direct the brain to tell the body what to do. It's not sleep. The subject's attention is highly focused. It may involve a certain amount of telepathy, even with a board-certified MD, as Dr. Huberman was suggesting. But historically, we can see a fair amount of evidence, and in fact, it's the basis of Phineas Parkhurst Quimby's discovery of mental healing. He experienced in the 1840s with a subject that he was working with pretty regularly that he began to see some of what he was thinking being expressed by this subject. And finally, one day, he imagined a roaring lion charging onto the platform where they were, and his subject jumped up and ran away. Now, hypnosis does not necessarily require another person, although it may help in the beginning to familiarize oneself with that state. Hypnosis allows our clear intention to be experienced by the brain-body system without the interference of the normal default structure of neurons in the brain, and, as Dr. Huberman suggested, could well be contributing to changing the structure, the default structure, so that habitual responses are not habitual anymore. If you just tuned in, you are listening to Noetic Moments, the show that explores what consciousness is, what it does, and how our lives could be better if we understood it more fully. I'm Ruth Miller, and that sound tells me we need to look at what's going on in the world today and or what you, the listeners, are curious about. Now, there are lots and lots of resources for hypnosis, and one of them is the app that he referred to called Reverie. Today I'm going to talk about an online resource, not a book, although there's lots of books out there, This is healthline.com, has a thing on self-hypnosis. And the headline is, yes, self-hypnosis can really work. Here's how to give it a try. This is healthline.com, and the link will be on our website. The explanation talks about a variety of things. Temple sleep, practiced widely throughout early Greek and Egypt, involved a meditative ritual used to bring on a deep healing sleep and dreams of a cure. The Book of Healing, published in 1027 by the Persian philosopher Ibn Sina, or in Latin Avicenna, also mentions what looks like hypnosis. In the 1800s, Franz Mesmer brought it to the attention of Western world, and he encouraged people to learn how to manage the flow of this material that he thought was involved. How does this work? You can get a variety of studies if you want to look for them. Here's an example. There was a 2020 study of 90 women who were experiencing postmenopausal sleep disturbances. They were given the opportunity to use self-hypnosis and reported that hypnosis helped them sleep longer and their higher quality of sleep. There were fewer hot flashes and night sweats, and they felt fewer changes in mood. In a 2018 review of 24 studies evaluating the use of hypnosis for sleep concerns, almost 60% of the studies found support for hypnosis. Here's a 2021 review evaluating the potential benefits of hypnosis for weight loss. 9 of the 11 studies found some evidence to support. A 2018 study of 120 adults with a high body mass index found that the group that learned self-hypnosis felt feelings of fullness after eating and improved the quality of life and reduced their inflammation, quite apart from any issues around weight. Now, how to try it is given, and as you might with meditation, you want to get comfortable. Wear comfortable clothing. You want to be in a quiet room where you don't want to be disturbed, where you aren't going to be disturbed. Now you want to get clear about what it is. This is different from meditation. So you're going into the process with a clear goal, whatever that is, whether it's around pain, self-esteem, getting better sleep, breaking a habit. Then it suggests, rather than rolling your eyes back the way he was doing in that experiment, it said to focus on something. Colored thumbtack or light a candle. Focus on the flame if you do so. And then breathe slowly and deeply and continue to relax. And you may remember that we did a progressive relaxation. The next suggestion, is some of you may have experienced in other groups and classes, create a peaceful mental happy place, something that helps you feel at peace, some place that you feel comfortable and safe, and spend some time there. Bring all your feelings to that, not just see it. You might even imagine yourself sinking sleepily. And then it suggests repeating some statement about being at peace and being calm. And when you feel that calm, you use that inner imagination, that visualization ability, and it can be auditory. It doesn't have to be visual. We say visual because most people are, but it can be auditory. You can feel it in your body. You can hear it. You can even taste it. And whatever you can use, please do. You're going to make the scene of yourself on the other side of the goal as vivid as possible. And then as you're imagining yourself achieve it, you want to say it in your mind. A statement in the present tense. I'm speaking confidently. I don't crave a cigarette. I don't want to smoke. Those kinds of things. As you repeat the words, feel how encouraging and compassionate you can be toward yourself. And then after about 5 minutes, begin to feel the energy of your world coming back into you as you're breathing. And then count backwards from 10, saying, when I reach 1, I will open my eyes, energized and alert. That's the healthline.com suggestion for how to do self-hypnosis. A couple of books they suggest: Instant Self-Hypnosis, How to Hypnotize Yourself with Your Eyes Open by Forbes Blair, and Close Your Eyes, Get Free by Grace Smith. With any new skill or routine, try to do this every day for a while. It will improve your opportunities for healing. As we learned from Marissa's experience, she did 10 or 15 times a day for several weeks, adding it to what she normally does: taking a shower, putting on the kettle, the tea kettle for her, the coffee pot for most Americans, as you're getting into the car, as you are getting out of the car, as you're leaving a meeting. You can do all those things. And you can always look for a professional hypnotherapist, and there are directories around the internet for finding them. In the science news these days, there are a couple of stories that totally support what we've been talking about. One of them is saying that it's possible to train vision process so that distractions are not seen. Now, some of us have used this before. There might be a TV in the room and we're focused on something else. There might be someone practicing some instrument and we're trying to focus on something else. There might be other people in the room and we're trying to focus on our job. Whatever it is, we can train the mind not to be distracted by that. Now, this is, in fact, a normal process. How many of you perceive the air conditioner every time it turns on or off, or the refrigerator every time it turns on or off? You might occasionally, but it isn't normal for you to be aware of it because you've tuned it out. Well, it turns out that not only human beings can do this, but other primates can do this, and that's a trainable process. So if you're finding there's something that is distracting you, that is keeping you from being able to focus on what you want to be focused on, you might consider the possibility of having a process whereby you directly focus and tell your brain to ignore this thing. Just say, nope, that's not relevant. I'm focusing here. And over time, you will be able to be free of that annoying thing. Well, that's it for today's show. The next time we get together, we'll look at more of the research being done in an attempt to understand what consciousness is, what it really does, and how we can experience life differently when we use it fully. We are out of time for today, but remember, you can continue the exploration on our website, www.noeticmoments.org, where there's a list of the titles and other resources we refer to on the show, along with the archived shows, and where you can send me your comments and questions, which I'll do my best to get answered the next time we're on the air. For now, thanks for joining me here on Noetic Moments, recorded in the studios of KXCR Community Radio in Florence, Oregon. And have a wonderful week.
You've been listening to Dr. Ruth Miller's Noetic Moments. This program is produced in the studios of KXCR Community Radio in beautiful Florence, Oregon, supported by you, our listeners. Our theme music is Tumbling Planets, composed and performed by Jeff Lovejoy. To hear this program again or learn more about Noetic sciences, search our website, www.noeticmoments.org.